Hi, I'm Perry Parker. This is Entrepreneurs in Mississippi. And this morning we are in McGee, Mississippi with Sue Honea, who is the proprietor of McGee News. Now, I don't know if you are familiar with McGee News. If you're not, go to mcgeenews.com. But McGee News has become the source of information for anything going on in central Mississippi and, for that matter, the world. So, Sue, tell me about McGee News.
Well, I tell you what, it's a great thing. McGeenews.com is wonderful. It's been a real interesting and exciting path because I never believed that it would develop into this type of thing. It was just something that I started really as a hobby. I'm one that always liked to write when I was coming along, and so we had this church group called the Baptist Young Women, and I want y'all to know we are still the Baptist Young Women, although we're up there. And I would send just a little letter every month recapping what had gone on around town and with people's families and that kind of thing. And it was called The Message from the Press because I am the president of the BYW until I die. And so I started sending it. Well,
I think they might call that a queen, by the way.
I don't know why they didn't call me the queen. We had another queen, so they made me be the press. But anyway, when we started, it's been about 18 years ago, I got a computer. And at that time, let me tell you, I didn't even know how to turn one on. Literally, I did not know anything. I was totally in the dark. Well, I finally learned how to do an email. So I would send out emails, but you've got to realize 18 years ago, not that many people in our area even had computers. And they certainly weren't looking at their news online. Well, so I started this email. And very quickly, we had like 500 people on the email. Now, I have to tell you, the secret to the email was the obituaries. It's just a fact. You need to think about, if you're ever thinking about doing anything in your community, look at what people really want to know. What do they really want to know? I'm telling you, in a small town, they want to know who's dead. They got to get the food, they got to get there, they got to be there. So I would put the obituaries. Well, I started getting all these phone calls like, I didn't get the fact that Joe Smith died. I am so mad at you. Well, I didn't have anything to do with it. All I did was push, And one of my friend's sons, Ty Metter, came to me and he said, Miss Sue, we will build you a website. And I was like, God, I can't even work Word. How do you think I'm going to have a website? Also, this was following a stroke. I had a stroke I don't remember when it was. About 11 years ago, 12 years ago, just before I started this. So I was just, virtually crazy. So I didn't worry about it too much, And Tom Etter said, no, we will build it and teach you how to do it. I had a friend in Jackson who suggested the name. At first I thought, I'm going to name it Message from the Press. But he said McGee.
Because that was your email.
That was my email, Message from the Press. And so there is a part on that is. And it's almost, once our site launched in, I believe it was 2005 or 6, we never looked back. And since then, we have developed probably 5 different websites during that time. We have sold websites. We have filmed football games, basketball games, baseball games. We film now. Almost all politicians are on our route in McGee.
Sure.
They come through, and it's a lot of state politicians. It's not just your local people. We have.
That's how I got to know.
That's right. That's how we became friends.
Sue was coming down as a politician, like, wow, this McGee News reaches everybody in central Mississippi.
It does. But
I want to back up for a
okay.
moment. You start sending out emails. I know a little bit about email. Getting 500 email addresses, that's not easy. You had a little technical, that's a lot of work. Let me say that. Now, you're kind of, well, we know you're special, Sue. I know you're special. But it is special to do the work to come up with 500 emails. Tell me a little about how that happened.
It was one of those things that almost just developed, and I didn't realize, because there was so much talk about the website. And so many people about the email, because they would speak to each other and they'd say, did you know? And everybody in small towns wants to be the did you know. And so I started, I went over to Walmart, I'd come back and say I had survived the red light from hell at Walmart, and this is what I saw and who I saw and what they were doing. So basically my boys called it a gossip letter.
It sounds a little that, and was it scheduled? Would you just send it out on a Wednesday at noon, or just whenever you had something to say?
Whenever I had something to say. And I got
You
connected with
clearly
people.
loved it, or you wouldn't
I
have
did.
done it.
I love my town. I love the people. I love Mississippi, and I just like people to know what's going on. And one thing I did too, which is a little bit different than a newspaper. I never went after people. I didn't have my website to be able to call you out. I felt like there was positive in everybody's life, and this is what I wanted the website to do. In the beginning, it did, and I was able to get different things. But when the police contacted me to start looking for somebody that was missing, and I was praying in this prayer and the next prayer I was saying, would you look for this criminal? I realized then I had to make some changes. But obtaining those 500 emails was difficult, and it was not done like you go in a shop and sign up, and it was all people coming to me. So
I want to be on this.
Yes, and I think that's basically the key to any product. You have got to have what the public wants.
Right.
Now, figuring that out is not always easy. And I didn't think that's, I didn't realize that's what I was coming into.
So you have the email list, you've got young people teach you, you come up with the name. So it started out on day one as McGee News, maybe.
It did. Well, the original email was Message from the Press.
And you probably sent out an email, hey, I'm going to be on McGeenews.com going forward. But a lot of it is you just liked telling what was going on in McGee. You call it gossip, you call it news, call it whatever you want. That's the basis of McGeenews.com. To this day, I can tell you, because I do look at it 2 times a day.
Yay.
Well, I get the email.
Yes.
I wouldn't look. I get the email and I scan the headlines, and sometimes I think, "Boy, is that coming again?" I go between, "Is it too much?" Or, "Boy, I want to see that."
I know. It's very difficult to know at what point do you stop. I was very fortunate that I am on the I'm on the FBI's not most wanted list that sends out all their information when they have the trials and all that kind of stuff. I get it at the same time Associated Press does. Well, a lot of people, they don't really care. They really don't care. They don't care. And I have to be careful, because all of a sudden I'll have 5 huge cases that have developed. They don't have anything to do with McGee or Simpson County or personal things.
Right.
And what works is the personal. They want, in this case, they want me to write. They want me to tell them what I've seen. Now, I think with age, I have probably lost some of that, and I also found out that my biggest competitor is Facebook. And I told my people several years ago, I said, I joined when it came out, but I always join everything. And I told them, I said, Facebook is going to be our competitor. Oh, no, Miss Sue, it's not. I said, yes, it is. Well, it is, but the deal is with any competitor, you just figure out how to be a part of their operation.
Right.
And I had good tech people that were really younger and smart and were liked. I think they enjoyed the just achieving that. And they were the ones that started me.
So you're on Facebook as well.
Oh yes, I do. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, anything you know.
Twitter, I don't follow you on Twitter. So you're on Twitter, and so will all the news be on Twitter?
All of it. You can set up everything to all make it multiply out. But I don't think that's really what you want to know about that.
So entrepreneurs in Mississippi, it is about business and making payroll. We talk a lot about how do you make things work. So let's back up and talk. You do a great job of it being just Sue's News is how I think of McGeenews.com. I met Patrice, who has helped me in this venture, and also Zach. But so I know you have a couple of employees. Tell me a little bit about the business side of McGee News.
The thing with McGee News is it is totally ad-based. That is a difficult business to be in. If I had a large inventory or I had any of that type of thing, making payroll is not always easy for me, because in McGee, you are very limited as to the people you can approach.
Sure.
So you've got, but that was one thing I had to get myself out of the habit of, is to get out of the box. And there was no reason someone in Madison, because they're looking at us in Madison, or McGee, or Jackson, or Hattiesburg, would not advertise on McGee News. It was strange to me, because I was like, I always still think of us as being like this, and we're not, you know. But it is
Yeah,
strictly
I think
ad-based.
Jackson politicians are watching the news
They
every
do,
day.
they do. And we, I've been surprised at that, the number, they come to me. And I started, when I first started years ago, the different people that came, I just kept a connection with them, and a lot of times with their, whoever was running their campaign. And it's not all political people that come here. We have a lot of authors. Charlie Spillers has been here. We have lots of authors
Sure.
that come. And so it's really kind of anybody, and it can be whatever's interesting. But the business part is tough, and I'm not a good business person. That part I would tell you, I'm not a good boss.
Do you go out and sell ads?
I do.
Because you
I do
gotta sell.
anything.
You gotta sell.
I can sell. My family
I'm
had
guessing Sue would be good at selling.
well, my family had a business for 62 years and forever, since like 1922. And so I grew up in a store, and I knew the customer was right, and I learned that type of thing. What I didn't learn well was managing money. And I'll tell you that in a heartbeat. That is my weakness. I am not a good boss because I do not hold people accountable. And if you don't hold them accountable, I think you suffer. And I don't want anybody mad at me. I think that's a weakness. Whereas one of my sons is an excellent salesman. Both of them are excellent salesmen too, but an excellent salesman, but he's also a good employee. He keeps his employees in line, and I don't. And I think it's a very shortcoming. I think it's a mistake. If you're starting a
I
business,
get a feeling this is a family, and your
it
employees are
is.
family.
It is. And you know, that's not always good.
Right.
You know, you have to be careful with that.
Have you, you get a lot of hit, like this is a relatively large media business at this point. Do you think about the future? Do you plan, we're gonna be bigger, we're gonna be MississippiNews.com? How do you think about that?
Well, I do look toward the future. I believe that if you limit yourself very easily. Now, one thing I did not think about in the beginning was when I made it McGeeNews.com, I limited myself. In a lot of people's minds, we have a lot of rivalries in our county. So getting people to advertise from Mendenhall is not quite as easy because it's a Mendenhall McGee thing. People don't want to say it, but it is. I mean,
It's crazy.
It's just crazy and it's ridiculous. But that was a place you limited. And I would say anybody that's starting out needs to start out looking for the future. Not today as much as 10 years down the road.
And you need business from Rankin County, but I think people, if you're a business person in Brandon, for example, at the end of the day, you get over 100,000 hits, or I've seen some of the numbers. The numbers are huge for McGeeNews.com.
No.
They gotta get past it. It's just a name.
Yes,
McGee.
and I think they are. I'm just saying that if I were starting a business again,
Right.
I would think about this. Now, one thing that was suggested to me in the beginning, and this would be if you're starting a business and you're doing something online, is to go ahead and buy up several domain names. I own about 15 domain names, and they'll range from my other business, Local News Online, which is my TV part, to you just change the name up, whatever comes up. And it's, if you think we did local news online, legals online, web legals online, because I feel like the legals are going to come, they're going to go away from the paper because the paper's going to go away. I like the paper, but I'm open.
Oh, okay, so those legal announcements, you're trying to have a business doing those legal announcements.
Yes.
I was
To be
reading
ready.
about the Times-Picayune has closed recently in New Orleans, and the Advocate is the paper there, and the backbone of they have two backbones: obituaries, paid obituaries,
Right.
and legal announcements.
I think legals is a big thing for the future. Now, personally, I would just do it in my business, whatever it was. I would do it for the Board of Supervisors. They would do it, whatever. But those papers are making a huge amount of money from those legals because they charge you whatever they want to charge, and you've got to pay it. When
Because
you
the
have
announcement has to be out there, but you can satisfy that need.
not at this time. They do not recognize us. This is the thing with the
They
legislature.
need
The legislature.
so we got to talk to our
Representatives.
legislator.
Yes, you do, because one
Let's
thing.
talk to Price Wallace and
I
Noah
know.
and
I stay on those boys. But you know, one thing, it's an excellent place for them to save money. Because I think if, like, let's just use, for example, the Board of Supervisors went back and
And
showed
local
us-
newspaper owners can say we're piling on, by
Yes.
the way, but
Yes.
that's competition.
Right. that you saw what they spent a year on advertisement, whether it's legal or whatever, you would be shocked.
And we're referring to the county.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the county has a budget where they have to put it in the local paper. And I get the local paper saying it's the only thing we got.
Mm-hmm. And we have a very good paper, and I'm not one that is out to get the paper. That's never been what I think about. And I think when you're doing a business, you need to look at that. If you have an enemy, which I don't think it's so bad to have an enemy necessarily. I mean, you know, to me, the enemy can be the competition. You can call them whatever you want, your competition or your enemy. And you can treat them in either way. You can make them be an enemy or you can make them be a competition. And I know that when McGee News started, my competition on Main Street McGee said, you know, this is a joke. She will be closed in a month. Well,
Sure.
look who's looking at who. I mean, you
Okay,
know.
how do you, maybe there's no answer to this, but it has to be. How do you drive viewership to McGeeNews.com? To be frank, Sue, I came to you because I was a candidate looking to get my name out. Somebody said you got to go to McGee News, somebody I worked with on the campaign. But I don't think I'd seen it before. You have viewership. When I was in New York City, I could have looked, but I didn't know to.
Right.
How do you drive people to your site?
That's a difficult thing to do. And again, I have a girl named Charlie Neely White who works with me now. She is very innovative in her thinking, and she's the one that says, you know, we're going to do the emails, and we're going to pull them in like this. We're going to do the Facebook. We're going to do the Twitter. You have to look at every avenue that's out there, and that's in any type business. I'm not saying it's just an online business. Anything, you have got to look at the whole picture and figure out how am I going to get that customer. Because they say it like whatever you want, a reader is a customer. And if you're trying to build your business, you're looking to
So
get
it takes
them.
a lot of time.
It
I
takes a
think
lot
it's
of
7 days a week.
It's all the time, 24/7.
I get 2 emails a day, I
Mhm.
believe,
Mhm.
7 days a week.
Mhm.
Somebody's got to put that out. Somebody's got to come up with content.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you're constantly battling content.
I am.
It never ends. And then as far as advertising, you have these numbers. I'm sure you have all these numbers about hit, and you take it out to the.
Mhm. But you know, the thing with being a small business, and this would be something I would say to anybody that might be starting their business, is often you have to do everything. I have to write it, sell it, produce it, the whole thing. At some point, you can't do it all. And if I go out to sell, which I've got to do, then I can't write. My day's gone, and I've lost that day. Now, did I lose it or just use it in a different way? That's kind of what you have to look at. But if you are actually trying to make your business go, and you've got to do it all, you need to look very carefully. I think one thing that's good is that you can do a lot of contract labor. That's another thing I do.
Outsource. You call it what you want.
Call it what you want. Because I cannot afford to have employees that are here and I'm paying all the government part. You know, I'm probably not supposed to say that.
Sure.
But, you know,
No.
but I have to look at it in a different way.
There's so many decisions to make, and I look at because I'm a consumer of McGee News, we've got that. You have some national stories, you have hyper-local stories, you have neighborhoods in McGee stories, you have the Little League, you have the T-ball, and then right under that you'll have something Trump did.
Right. I don't do quite as much national. I do a lot of Mississippi news. It will be like when Cindy Hyde Smith does something in Washington, all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
I got on all these different websites and
Sure.
signed up for their stuff, and I get it. And that's another thing. You've got to look at how can you get that content. You can't just depend on yourself to write it all the time. Although that's what they like, you know. You've got to have other content on there, but it can't be just.
Who do you see as your target market?
You know, I just think it's almost everybody. And I know you're not supposed to say
You
that.
can't do that.
I know you can't. I would say my target market is probably 40, you know, but we have young people that look at it too. I would say though about 40 and up, probably, you know. But again, I go right more for the middle because I just hit the fringes the other way. Now, your older adults have computers. So when I started out, I only had younger.
Is it completely unfair to say my elderly aunt in Collins, who I think I might have turned her on to
Mhm.
I think of her as a target market because she's at home and she cares about this community, and she's getting news from you about the community.
She is, but she's not spending the money I need her to spend with my advertisers. So I have to be very careful that I don't target just talk towards almost a comfortable segment of the website. It's very easy to please. I guess you would say very easy. That might not be the right word, but it's easier to please
If
the
you
older. Yeah.
if you niche that older,
Mhm.
they would love it, but then who's going to advertise to them because
Right.
they're just not spending?
But I think I'm real big on having information for them, you know, and they're wanting obituaries. I mean, they are.
Sure.
And so anything that I know they want, or like if there's scams going on, I'm constantly watching for anything that's affecting any of our people, you know. Also, I found that people like human interest stories and interviews, human interest interviews. They like to hear what people say. They like to see how people look. I think that's very important, and I think that's what we work with. That we felt like you've got to put a face to that name.
Right.
You got to put a face to that name.
To me, you were doing it. I know you worked with Zach Holbrook is a young man who, he graduated from high school, he'll be moving on. Now you've got to train another Zach.
I do, and they're not many of them. But you know, that's that was kind of one of my missions, was to help young people, give them a chance to do something that maybe they don't get it in their classroom or whatever. The people that have stood out to me in the past that have worked with me, one girl did it for her senior project. It was a great thing, and she ended up building a advertising business that she could make ads for people when nobody was really making ads. She could make ads for people, and this has been such a help all through the years, is watching the people develop. But you also learn who will and who will not take advantage. So it's, you know, and that's important. Zach has only been with me since last summer, so it's not even a year, but he was hungry and eager and
Right.
interested. And it's going to be very difficult to find someone. But you know what? It may be that I go take it in a different way. I've been very political this year, very political. And that's another thing with your business. I think no matter what type of business you start, you do have to look to who's going to be your employees the next year, who's going to be working with you, and what do you want? You know, what do we want? Do we want to stay political? I mean, after
Political
November,
meaning you're getting political advertising.
That's it.
Because this is
it's like Christmas.
2019 is such a big political year in the state of Mississippi. Not that you're choosing sides, you were,
No, I have to say,
right, you're right down the middle,
mhm.
but you are, well, I think you're providing a service there because you're letting candidates get their word out
Mm-hmm.
at a reasonable price. This could become all consuming, I think, where you work at it 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. I have family members who, in their business, who they're very good at, but it's all consuming.
Mm-hmm.
How do you is that how you see your life? Is it pretty much consumed by this?
It is, you know, and I really don't want to say that because I think it's the years I've been with it. We're 11 years out, and it is constant. And because I have my business in my home, there's somebody at my house all the time.
We're in Sue's home this morning.
That's right.
Sue is very kind to let us.
I don't
Again,
worry about it anymore.
Thank you, Sue, for allowing us to film
No problem.
in your home.
No problem. But it can be very consuming. I feel like probably what I should have done is make office hours.
Right.
And that's not something I can conceive of, but I think that's what people had suggested to me. Make office hours. Well, they don't have a wreck on the highway between 8 and 2 or something, you know. So we're running this and that, and ambulance chasers, I guess you could say sometimes.
It's really, look, I'm not a huge student of the media, but it's cool to see, at the end of the day, you really have in some ways replaced part of the local paper, which I know we still have a local paper in McGee, and I read it on occasion, but it's, papers aren't what they used to be in small towns or even in large cities. I don't really think the TV is what it used to be.
Mhm.
WDAM is good, but they're not what they used to be when they were on. You replaced part of that.
I did.
But that's tough because you can't pay somebody to run up and down the road and be a reporter.
I can't. And you know, I think too, you don't need to be afraid to try something even though it may fail. I think as an entrepreneur, this is very important. And I almost say that's the difference in that some people are so scared of failure that they won't try. You know, I mean, I didn't have enough sense to know I might fail. Because I was like, when I did it, it was really funny when I did the first time. I was at one of my church meetings, and I said, I'm just going to launch McGee News tomorrow, and if anybody wants to add, and they said, how much are they? I just made up a price. Didn't have a clue, just made up a price. I mean, that night before I left, every ad spot was taken, and for 1 year, I never went out of my house to sell an ad. They were beating my door down for an ad. And again, I really didn't know how you charged with it or whatever.
I bet you've learned since then.
I have, but I still don't charge what I should. But what I did realize is this past year that I needed another source of income because I need another person. I need another contract labor.
Right.
And I can't do it just by advertising all the time. We do know just work on advertising. So I decided that I would start a Facebook page called McGee News Uncut. And what it was going to be it's an area that we talk about things that I don't feel quite as comfortable about saying on McGee News. If I put it on McGee News, it's got to pretty much be the truth, and I got to know it's the truth. But on Uncut, I could say, I heard this. So it really was your gossip, I'm going to tell you.
All right, so McGee News Uncut on
Uncut.
Facebook. So
On
I got to
Facebook.
try McGee News Uncut.
Well, yeah, because there's kind of an interesting story to it. So I started it. It took, and we had to make a not a large investment to be a closed page on Facebook. And then I decided
So you have to join this.
You have to join it. You did have to join it. Let me tell you, you did have to join it. It was only $2.99 a month or $30 a year. Okay, well, when we so it's it's a pretty good deal. And so we started this, and we had several to come on and this kind of thing. But I'm going to tell you what it did to me. It almost drove me crazy because I had so much pressure now that I had to put it on this side. So what I realized is I gave myself another website, and I was like, I can't do
Another job.
another job. And then I was not getting help from it. I was not getting help, so it was all falling on me. And the pressure of that, I thought, you know what? It's not worth it. It's not worth it. I'm not doing it like that. I'm opening it to anybody. So I did, and I refunded
So I can
the
go
money.
on McGee News Uncut,
I have to allow you to join, but you don't have to pay. And I do stuff on
and
that.
I can put my opinion, so-and-so is a bad politician.
Not totally. No, I did realize the other day that I've got to go back and look at that because somebody did post something on there, and it was not something I had posted.
Mhm.
But mostly what I do is I share, I may see something when I'm on the internet that's an interesting story, I'll only share it on Uncut, and that type of thing. I've not done any advertising on Uncut, so I don't know, since it's not really now costing me any money, I probably will keep it up, and I've been amazed at the people that want to join. When it became free, you would not believe how many people we got like that. Like yesterday when I went on the site, I had 5 people waiting to join. And I'll go today and we have 10 people waiting to join. So there's a hunger out there for the edgier news. I don't know if I'm your source. I don't know that I'm edgy enough.
But you're just trying new things, and somehow that may grow into something
Right,
that's a
right.
business.
Right.
Love that. I know you focus on making payroll, growing readership this week, this month, this year. Do you ever hazard maybe at holidays or something, hey, McGee News could go on, you're a young lady, but McGee News could go on for a long time, even without me? You ever think about that?
I do. And really, I guess ultimately what I want to do is sell it. I never thought of, when I did it, as something that would be sold.
Right.
That was never my intention or never what I was thinking about. But now I would be open to someone buying it because I am getting older. It does tie you down. When I'm going to be gone, I've got to have that site covered.
Sure, you've got family around
Mhm.
that I know that aren't necessarily right here. Hard for you to get away from more than a few days.
It is, and two, my sons are not really happy with that. Because the grandmother can't come all the time. Well, I can't, because I run a business. And I can see, if you'd asked me this probably 3 years ago, I would have told you, no, I'll never quit.
Sure.
But I do see a difference. I do see a difference coming.
And so then you will learn how to tailor this. Where, by the way, there's a market for media properties.
Mhm.
Same way we might do with banks. You can roll up media properties and
You
roll up
might need to do
advertising.
that for me. Roll it up.
That is very interesting. I just think it's fascinating how a media property is growing right here in McGee. Now, are there other, we don't have to go into names, but do you see this happening across Mississippi or across the Southeast where websites like yours, sure there are others?
Mhm. You know, I've been surprised that there are not as many as there are. When we built, I think it was our third website, Charlie, that I referred to, she said, we need to sell this model. She said, it is good, and we can sell it to so-and-so, and they can build it for their town, they have to run it. But you know what I find, which I'm sure you find too, most people don't want to work.
Well, I don't know about it's hard and it's hard to know how. I think people will work. By and large, people work really hard. But you've got to come, your day is not normal, I think. And as you've built it over the last 10 years, you don't know what you're going to get up and do today.
No.
It's hard to walk in somewhere and sell an ad. So people don't want to go outside the box.
Mhm.
That's what you're doing here in
Yeah,
McGee-News.com.
it really is. It's outside the box. And I was fortunate enough that I moved out of the box early and didn't know I was getting out of the box, And I think anyone needs to look at their hobby, what they like, what they care about, and what you see others caring about. And, move toward that. Be aware of what's in your heart.
I'm trying to live that example, Sue. I like business and I like
Exactly.
Mississippi, and I'm trying to put those together. This is not about me.
No, but I think
That's what we're trying to do with entrepreneurs in Mississippi.
I think
I'll do
that's
it for it.
wonderful, is that these people who are willing to step out. But I think with me, that you need to realize you can step out even small and make a big impact. That it doesn't have to be something, that was another thing, I didn't have a lot of money to put into it. And when I started it, and I told my boys I had done it, they said, you have lost your mind. I said, let me tell you something. I said, my money, I'm gonna do what I wanna do. And now they're like, Mama, are we gonna narrow it? I'm like, no, but anyway. But I didn't have to have an inventory. I didn't have to have so many things that brick and mortar required.
Sure.
And it made a difference.
You could grow it without a large capital investment.
Exactly. You're right.
That is key to this whole business model. I've read books about Facebook, Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
I think we could read books about McGee-News.com. Look, this is fascinating. I think we could talk for days about McGee-News.com, about growing a media business in rural Mississippi, because
Mhm.
that's where we are.
Mm-hmm.
But I won't take Sue's time. Sue's got ads to sell and a business to manage and a newsletter to get out, a website to run. So this has been Entrepreneurs in Mississippi. I'm Perry Parker. I've been with Sue Honea and McGee-News.com, and thank you for watching.